Hi, this is Swapnil Bhartiya, your host, and today we have with us Tracy Ragan. She's a co-founder of a company called DeployHub.
Correct.
Right. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And it's kind of incredible to see how many people are there, right? So what has been your experience so far at KubeCon in Seattle?
Well, I mean, this is a huge group of people who are hungry for information. They don't want to just come to your booth and scan their badge and get their T-shirt. They want to quiz you. They want to ask deep questions. They are really digging for answers. I think many of them are. If you walk out there, there's probably not a single individual that's not on the bleeding edge, and that's kind of a cool place to be.
Right. When you started the company, what problem were you trying to solve?
So when we started the company, we looked around. So we come from the CI/CD background, application lifecycle management, and the one thing that the companies have always struggled with is deployments. Now there are some very good companies out there that solve this problem. IBM, CA, there's funded companies like Electric Cloud and Zabbia, but there is dysfunction in our family. Because when you're a developer and you build a CI/CD pipeline out, you're building it out with tools that you can afford. And then you get to do the deployment. And now the deployment, you have to go spend enterprise level dollars to do your deployment. So even though we're talking about agile and doing things in an iterative format, when it comes to our CI/CD pipeline, the deployment piece is exactly the same scripts that we were using in Waterfall. And developers don't have a whole lot of options because these other tools are so mind-numbing expensive. So we decided to disrupt that. And we built a tool that's a SaaS offering that project teams can get their hands on, that does everything that our big competitors do for about $200 a month on a subscription model. So they can make a decision about, do they want to just continue doing waterfall deployment scripts, or do they want to do something that's automated and the operations team has some insight and can actually accept those deployments, driven by the development team. So we're all about empowering developers, and we felt that this was the place that they needed the most empowerment.
And when I look at CI/CD pipeline, I think I may be wrong that most of the time people were doing their own, do-it-yourself kind of thing, bringing a lot of Jenkins or whatever, bringing everything together, patch it themselves. So is it still the same, or how?
Well, the CI/CD pipeline is just an orchestration. Think of it as a job scheduler, right? And the good CI/CD pipelines are orchestrating other tools underneath the pipeline to make things go faster. But when they rely on the scripts that we used in the waterfall days, then there's a hitch in our giddy up, right? Because it stops you. It's got to be tweaked or it breaks, and it's hard to see what broke. So we used to preach 10-minute builds, and last year I was at CloudBees, and Gene Kim or Jez Humble or somebody was doing a talk and asked how many people can fix a build in 10 minutes. Maybe 10% of the crowd raised their hands. So how many people can do a live deployment today? Fewer would raise their hands.
Right.
So while yes, the CI/CD pipeline is supposed to kind of create collaboration, there's still a lot of weak links in that chain. And deployment's one, and actually build scripts are still another.
Right. And you also mentioned that the work that you are doing is open source. How much is your open source that you're doing there?
So the base of our product, we went ahead and created an open source project for it. And it actually is full, it can support as many deployments, as many users. It's pretty functional. It's to the point of being overly functional, so it might be difficult for us to monetize. But what we monetize on is support and security around production environments, and something that we call domain-driven design. But the rest of it, it's really quite open, and developers can start using it today underneath their CI/CD pipeline like Jenkins or CircleCI or Bamboo or GitLab, and have a very functional automated release process.
No, when I say open source, I mean the source code is open, or you're talking about an open platform?
The code is actually an open source project, and and we are working to build that community so we can get that base of code into the CNCF as a sandbox. Because once we do that, then we have really disrupted this ARA market that is so expensive that's sold at a multi-year SLA agreement, and they charge you $1,000 per end target. And if you have 250 end targets and you're a small team, you don't have $250,000. So that's the model we're disrupting. But we've added a lot of features to it around Kubernetes, which is pretty exciting too. And that's where we do version container content management, so we can actually see what's inside that microservices soup.
So before we wrap this interview up, one thing I would like to ask you is that when you are not founding companies, what do you do in your free time?
Well, I live in New Mexico. I have 4 dogs. I have 3 horses. And that keeps me pretty busy.
Did you bring your horses here?
I wish I could have.
That would be so awesome. You can just,
I have a Clydesdale.
Yeah, so, climb
I have
on
a big old Clydesdale, and I ride him in parades.
Yeah, you can bring him here.
He
or
would
her
not
here.
like it here too much. It'd be too many people.
At KubeCon China, they had a dragon. They wouldn't let you have a horse.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine me riding up in my Clydesdale?
Standing on the booth.
It's a big. He's tall. His head's like the size. When I pick up his foot, it's like a dinner plate.
That would be intimidating for your competitor, so you should do that.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, Tracy, it was nice talking to you today.
Oh, you too.
And hopefully, we will, catch up with each other in the next conference.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will do.